This podcast is for financial professional use only and is not intended for use with the public. Material is for informational purposes only and is not intended to provide tax, legal, or investment advice. The opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of Ash Brokerage. Welcome to Accumulation to Activation, the podcast that breathes life into your retirement planning strategies. If you're an advisor aiming to elevate your practice, deepen client relationships, and stay ahead of retirement income trends, we'll help you capture the opportunities on your doorstep and increase your impact. Each episode, we'll unpack the forces reshaping our industry, from the $44 trillion generational wealth transfer and the evolution of income planning to behavioral shifts, legislative updates, and breakthrough solutions that redefine financial security. Here are your hosts, Mike McGlothlin and Tim Ash.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Accumulation to Activation podcast. We are going to be talking about all things happening from an accumulation and going into retirement planning, which we've coined activation, because a lot of people will say a lot of different things, retirement versus retirement and all those things. It's really about staying active. It's about activating your assets and making sure that they're using it as efficiently and effectively as possible. And I'm the Executive Vice President of Retirement at Ash Brokerage, and I am here with Tim Ash, our CEO. Tim, you want to introduce yourself to the audience?
I'd be happy to. And thanks, Mike, for opening this podcast. We're excited about this. And, you know, the thing that we want to bring to all of you watching is around education. Now, there are going to be some opinions shared. You don't have to agree with what we say here. This is an open forum. We want it to be about how do we educate the American population on how to retire and do it in a manner that is enjoyable, not stressful. And so, Mike, I'm just so pleased to be here with you. And I think we're going to have a great opportunity to share some insights from what we see at Ash Brokerage, and also sharing what we're hearing from advisors around the country that are advising their clients that are entering this phase of retirement. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you, and let's get this going.
So, Tim, let's start off at a high level. We want to set the stage for this entire series. And you're super passionate about this, but let's talk about the vast number of qualified funds that people have saved up in America, and there's a tremendous amount of risk on the table right now.
I'd be happy. Yeah, I completely agree with you, Mike. There are right now between $43 and $44 trillion, that's with a T, in assets that are held in some form of qualified plan. And a really good portion of those are from, I'll call it the 401k market, the IRA market, where people have saved money in hopes to spend that at a later time in their life. And so it's a very, very large market. And I even have a couple of other statistics. As you know, I like numbers. Right now, there's $123 trillion of assets that are considered investable in the market. I'd be happy. You can already see that about a third of those assets are in some form of qualified plan. Another stat that's interesting is our national debt is fast approaching the value of the amount of assets that are in qualified plans. So I want the advisors to be thinking about, as they're educating their clients, these numbers are important. And if you think taxes are going to go down, I'm not certain, just given the financial landscape, that they will. But the point is, qualified plan assets, there are decisions that must be made on those, as a retiree approaches certain milestones. So, with that, Mike, I think we talked about owning the qualified plan market. And what I mean by that is owning the way that we can educate our advisors on how to get their clients from what we'll call employment to enjoyment.
You coined that phrase, and before you even got off of your meeting, when you said that, I actually wrote that down because I thought that was an unbelievable phrase, employment to enjoyment. A lot of people talk about it Saturday every day, and just not having to worry about fixed expenses, being able to make sure that you have income coming in, that leads to a lot of enjoyment. There's been a lot of research around the aspect of people that have guaranteed income, at least a portion of their retirement income, having guaranteed income, are happier and they enjoy life so much better. And one thing that I want to press on here is a stat that you mentioned, that about 1/3 of every household is qualified monies. And so this is going to be something that touches every American household over the next quarter century. And I think it's probably one of the greatest erosions of wealth that we're going to see, because I completely agree that tax rates are going to go up. It's going to be difficult not to see an environment where we're paying tax on qualified money. I mean, the game has always been tax deferred, tax deferred, tax deferred. And then that actually gets taxed at what should be the account balance's highest balance according to actuarial tables. So I think that it's incredible. And and to your point about enjoyment, again, you have to have some level of guaranteed income in there. Now, let's talk a little bit about some of those strategies at a high level of how we can mitigate some of that erosion, but more importantly, how can we make sure that there is enjoyment in somebody's life?
Sure. Well, that transition that takes place from someone being employed, and it doesn't matter if you're the CEO of a Fortune 100 company to running a plumbing and heating company, or, hey, like me, I've been employed since my early 20s, putting money in the 401k and doing other things like a lot of folks. But when you go from a paycheck that you get every 2 weeks, every month, or a K1 or a dividend from your business, it changes, because now you've transitioned from saying, I've saved money, I've accumulated assets in my portfolio, and how do I safely spend that over my lifetime? Because there are so many unknowns. Can you tell me what your rate of return is going to be in your bond and equity portfolio? Can you tell me what your health care is going to look like in your retirement? How long do you need your assets to last? Well, that's a really terrible question. You need them to last as long as you do. Now, what does that look like? Does that mean, am I going to live to 95, 98, 84? See, that unknown creates this stress. And with qualified money, which is why we're focused on this, Mike, and you know this, there are only 4 outcomes. See, that you're going to spend it. You're going to spend it either through traditional withdrawals, RMDs, or a combination of both. You might want to transfer it, right? Transfer it to your next generation. You may want to give it away. And the fourth one, which is the worst, is lose it. Lose it to taxes, lose it to, I'll call it confiscation, because if you don't spend it through RMDs, it is going to be taken from you. And so what we're trying to do through this series is educate on how we can show various financial products and instruments. And we're not biased, right? Hey, I don't know why annuities is a 4-letter word in most financial advisors' a bag of tricks, but it shouldn't be. It's really just a financial tool. And I have yet to hear someone, and I've talked to some pretty wealthy people that are leaving the workforce here soon, that say, hey, what am I going to do? And I asked the question, what percentage of your monthly expenses would you like guaranteed for as long as you live? And they said, well, no one's ever asked me that question. And most say, how about all of it? The point is, there's going to be a different answer for each person. And I don't mean to get too long-winded here in the opening comment, but qualified money is going to be spent, transferred, given away, or lost. And what we want to do is really promote and educate advisors. And the promote part is education.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest misconceptions, and you hit on it early there, is how long are you going to live? I mean, if you could tell me the exact day that you're going to die, I can tell you exactly how much that you can spend. But the problem is we don't know that. And even worse is that the majority of Americans underestimate their longevity by years, not just by months, but by a decade. And unfortunately, a lot of planning software will say a normal life expectancy is the average of like 85, but that's a birth rate. And then when you take a look at actual life expectancies at age 65, holy cow, I mean, male and female are living out to age 95. That's a big gap to cover, especially if you haven't saved enough as well. And then there's, as you mentioned, the transfer of wealth. And we got a little bit of a break with the extension of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, but the reality is that's probably temporary. And historically speaking, the tax law has changed, I think, on average every 1.7 years. So we really can't put that in our hip pocket. There's going to be taxation. There could be wealth cost to that. We could certainly give it away charitable, but so many people, our savings rate has been so pathetic for so long. I mean, we're below 4% in terms of disposable income right now. The vast majority of people have not saved enough for a really healthy retirement. And then finally, as we've already talked about, huge tax burden just sitting here and waiting for something to happen. So talk a little bit about how clients can win by concentrating on this marketplace. We've touched on it a little bit, but what are your couple things that you would tell an advisor and why they should concentrate on this qualified marketplace so much?
I would say leave your bias at the door and really get to know what's important to the client and ask a different set of questions. Hey, listen, we get asset allocation, dollar cost averaging, moving clients into portfolios that match their risk and all that. But if you're not talking healthcare and longevity, you are missing out on the biggest stress point that families are dealing with. And that can be, I'm in the middle of it right now. We just, and not to get personal on a podcast here, but my mother-in-law just is going into an assisted living facility. And then I look at transition of care. And I will say this, and she's not wealthy by any stretch of the imagination, but she's looking at her assets saying, are they going to last as long as I do? She's going to live likely another 10, 12 years. And so how do we align the right financial products to alleviate that stress? And Mike, you alluded to it earlier. The stress that people have over money is one of the biggest stressors in their life, especially running out of money when you are not able to work. So if you want to just rely on Social Security, well, I guess that's okay. However, there are better solutions, better strategies. And what we say is take the stress off your life, Mr. and Mrs. Advisors. And what I mean by that is you can transition a portion of the portfolio into lifetime guaranteed income. And it doesn't matter if the client lives 95 or 105. It's going to be that paycheck that just shows up. And I'm using the Tom Hegna, line here of paychecks, playchecks, and people just living, long lives, and take that stress out of that. So if I'm an advisor and my clients are showing up and talking to their peers, their friends, and saying, hey, my advisor has made certain that my life is going to, I'm never going to run out of money. I'm never going to run out of income. You're going to have a line out the door of people wanting to talk to you because that conversation is not taking place in enough advisors' practices. We're still doing the asset allocation. We're still doing the, hey, listen, I do the same thing, right? My financial, I have two financial firms I work with. One is passive, one is active. The passive, I'm in a 70-30, 80-20 portfolio. And I've looked at my bond returns over the last 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years? I hate to say this, I would have done better owning a MYGA on the fixed income. So the point is, what we'd like to see you do is open your thought process to using other financial products that might take stress away from the families that you're serving. And I have yet to hear someone say, hey, please don't send me that lifetime guaranteed income check.
I completely agree. Could have done better in a MYGA. Still the case with so many bond alternatives right there. One other thing that you mentioned a few minutes ago, Tim, was just asking the right questions, getting to know that client. I think a great way to get into that income planning conversation comes from one of our wholesalers. He asked the advisor, tell me about your first job in high school and how were you compensated? And was it part commission? Were you out selling knives, or were you actually using a salary type of position? And then in your retirement, what kind of mix would you like? Would you like a little bit of variable? Would you like a lot of guarantee? And most people are going to say, I want a little bit more guaranteed, right? And so what a great way to ask a client and how to get engaged into that conversation that way. So as we wrap it up here, one of the things we want to do is just do 1 or 2 minutes, Tim, in terms of call it Tim's takes on this particular episode. And then where are we going to go next?
Well, appreciate it. And thank you for all that are tuning in and listening to this. Again, I don't want to overuse the word education, but really what it's about to me is service. And I wrote this down as I was thinking about this in preparation for this podcast. And that is, retirement should equal certainty. Retirement should be synonymous with certainty. That's what your clients want. I have yet to talk to anyone that said, no, I want an uncertain retirement. There's no one that wants that. What they want to know is they're going to be okay. And if you haven't utilized lifetime guaranteed income in that conversation to date, that's okay. We're here to help educate you, our retirement income consultants. That's what they do day in and day out. And we do it with math. We're not just doing it based on let's sell a product. That's not what this is about. Mathematically, it works. Psychologically, it works, because clients that have lifetime guaranteed income, they live a longer life because they have less stress in retirement. So what we want to do is be here for you, no matter where you are in your journey of retirement planning. It may be your first time, entering the space. It may be the 1,000th client that you serve, but allow us to help you educate, be a sounding board. If nothing else, I think that's something I've appreciated in my career, is when I've been able to have a sounding board for thoughts and ideas. And that's what we want to be for all of you. But Mike, thank you. Appreciate your leadership in the retirement space, and look forward to continuing our podcasts.
Yeah, and everybody make sure that you like and subscribe to the podcast. We try to keep these between 15 and 20 minutes so that you can get meaningful ideas, great education, and then do something to go out and talk with your clients about. So join us in a couple of weeks. Have a great day.
This episode of Accumulation to Activation was produced by Ash Brokerage. For more on the most pressing and critical issues facing financial advisors today, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with a colleague. For more resources, visit us at ashbrokerage.com or reach out to our team at 800-589-3000. Let's start a strategic conversation about how you can be more efficient with your retirement income and legacy planning solutions.